Hey YouTube, what's going on? Thank you for tuning in now and in the future. I've been wanting to do some more videos, provide some more content, I guess. And I've got some new ideas on content. Kind of want to change it up a little bit, maybe. Yeah. Well, today I'm going to talk about a number of things. I'm going to kind of be all over the place, but maybe touch on the holidays. Yes, it's the holiday season. Maybe a little bit about self care, mental health, maybe a little bit about education, some technology. I wanted to talk about technology in my last video, but I never did get around to it. So maybe we'll do that this go round. You know, when I bring out content that is more on the serious educational lines, people don't really view that too much. I don't get too many views. Not that I'm looking for views necessarily, but I do sometimes look at numbers. And this has been a trend that I've seen for some time is that whenever I do have serious content that is educational, very few people, maybe my most ardent fans, will sit and watch that. And maybe some people who aren't necessarily fans but who just keep an eye on me for whatever reason will sit and watch that. Very few, very few. Now, when I have roasts, oh my gosh, the views just skyrocket. Just skyrocket. The views, the clicks, everything. The engagement, it just skyrockets. And I've sat and thought about that for a while, and I thought, what's wrong with that picture? What's wrong with that picture? Because while I do think that roasts have their place, I think the more serious topics, the more educational stuff definitely should be a priority. Should I? Is that what I'm looking for? The word priority? I don't know. It's just interesting. It's interesting that I get the most engagement. I get the most emails and messages surrounding roasts, and it doesn't really matter who I'm roasting. It's just the roasts. The roasts really just carry an energy. And while I do enjoy the roasts, I think, like I said, they have their place. I would rather be out here talking about some other things, give that more airtime. But, this channel is a random channel. It's basically just me. I'm not out here. I don't have a specific agenda. I don't have anything to sell. I don't have any sponsors or advertisers that I have to work my content around. I don't have to, uh, fake and stage certain things to keep my audience interested in all of that. I just put out what I put out and let the rocks fall where they may type of deal. Because I don't need your money. I don't need your donations. I don't have that set up here, and I'm not knocking that. It's a hustle. People do hustle, and I respect people's hustle. And I'm not against it. I may one day decide to get some sponsors for my other channels or something like that. Not on this one. This one was set up just straight up homegrown, homemade content without any kind of bias other than my own subjective human bias, right? But like I said, I don't have sponsors or advertisers where I've got to twist my content a certain way so that now not only am I trying to communicate what I'm communicating, but I'm trying to get you to buy what my sponsors are selling. I don't have any of that going on. I do think that it is kind of off turning, not kind of, but quite repelling to me, you know, at least to me, when I see certain YouTube channels and it's staged, it's propped up and set up to make it look a certain way. And it's just so cringe to me. It's just, I hate it. It's so plastic and synthetic. You know what I'm saying? And it's geared to make to bring the audience, to continue to get the clicks, to continue to get the GoFundMe funds, the Cash App funds, the PayPal funds. It's geared to get you to hand over your time, energy, attention, and most importantly, money. So again, I'm not knocking what people are doing. That's their hustle. There's a lot of folks out here that their bread and butter is the internet, whether it's through their YouTube channel sponsors or being inside of a community and getting sponsored through PayPal and GoFundMe's and all of that. I've just always been the kind of person. I've never had a GoFundMe. I've never looked for anybody to carry me. You know what I mean? And that's just how I've always done my content, like that. Now, I do have content, and I've had content for decades where I've had Google AdSense ads. I have different kinds of advertisers on different blogs, and they're different subject interest blogs. Some of them are medical. Excuse me. Some of them are surrounding the plastic surgery industry and other types of things. I also have digital products that I've had for sale and that have been bringing in certain kinds of revenues over the years. So I have advertisers around those content sites involving those particular products in those particular markets. So again, I'm not opposed to any of it, but we're not going to do that here. All right, so homegrown content. Here we go. First of all, I want to wish you a happy holiday season. Yes, I'm starting early, just like one of my neighbors who has already had the Halloween stuff out since last month. Okay, she's pretty much over the summer. Okay, and it was a pretty hot summer, not as hot as last year, but it was pretty sweltering. And I guess she just was like, I'm over the summer. It's time for Halloween. Let's skip August and September and go straight to October. All right. So, I'm not mad at her. I'm not mad at her. I had to laugh when I rode by there and saw it. I'm like, what? It's barely the end of July, and she already has. And this is the kind of person that has decorated their entire yard, right? Like, this is one of these people that go all out. You don't just have one little skeleton hanging on there and a couple of spiders. No, her entire front yard is decorated from front to front, back to back, top to bottom, and back again. You're not going to miss it. Like, you're going to know this person likes Halloween. So, happy holiday season. We're starting early. I'm going to just go ahead and get this holiday season started now. Okay? So, yeah, I don't think I'll be doing any kind of big celebrating this year. But I think I'll attend a couple of parties maybe and exchange a few gifts maybe. I don't know. I'm feeling kind of lazy like I did last year. Some years I'm all into it, and some years I just take a break. I've had so many Christmas celebrations and birthday celebrations and holiday celebrations. I mean, I've just gone all out over the years to make up for lost time. And I feel like I'm celebrated all out. Don't get me wrong. I still like to have a good time, and I have been having a good time. I'm telling you. This past weekend was really wonderful. Last week was great. The week before was pretty cool too. I just feel really blessed and lucky, and I want to just put that out there that I'm very, very thankful for the things in my life, the people, the places and things in my life, the good people, places and things in my life. I am so thankful, and I consider myself lucky. Excuse me. even though I've had some really, really horrible experiences in my life, especially in my early childhood. Despite that, I have had some really wonderful, amazing, and continue to have wonderful and amazing experiences, people, places, and things in my life. And, I hope you do too, because the kind of blessings that I've been experiencing, especially recently in the recent year or so, I wish that for everybody, really. I really, really do. In my heart of hearts, you know, in an ideal world, everybody uh, would be happy. No one would be suffering, right? That's the whole thing. No suffering for any sentient being. And but reality of the thing is that we all have our trials and shadow experiences and pain and suffering. And I do wish that we all could have less of that and have more of the good stuff. And I don't want to say that suffering is necessarily a bad thing. The kind of suffering, there's different extremes of suffering, right? Like when I go to the gym, and I'm achy and sore and I don't want to be there. That's a type of suffering, right? But it's a different kind of suffering than someone in a Nazi concentration camp, for example, right? So, some of this stuff, the discomfort and the pain of life, you do want, the healthy kind, but you don't want the horrible, unhealthy kind, right? That's not what I'm talking about. So, yeah, having touched on the suffering, see, I'm getting messages left and right here. It's not even 7 a.m. and my phone is just ding, 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 ding. But I've got a couple of extra hours, so I wanted to go ahead and make a video before I head on out and get the day started. Because quite frankly, it's been some time since I've had a couple of videos. So the last week I did a couple of videos, and I want to do some more. I have been involved in some things that have really got me preoccupied. My mind is pretty much most of the time is preoccupied with these types of things that I need to be doing, because I got what I wanted once again. And yes, I was ready, but the transition, the adjustment phase, anytime you take on something that is meaningful, significant, and worth anything, it's going to most likely require a lifestyle change to some degree or another, right? And that adjustment phase can be a doozy. It can be quite challenging and painful even. There might be a little suffering involved with it too, right? Because you're coming out of your comfort zone. And that's what I want to bring to you today is don't be afraid of coming out of your comfort zone and whatever it is that you aspire or that you're working on in your life currently. And whatever it is you think you might want to do, but might be a little hesitant. Maybe you're a little afraid. Maybe you feel like it's too soon or it's too late. It's too this, it's too that. And that's okay to think and feel that. That's very valid. I always tell people your thoughts and feelings are valid. And feelings and thoughts may not necessarily be reflective of reality every time, but that doesn't mean they're not valid. Okay? So there's that. Now, when you're with somebody and they're disagreeing with you, they might not see your thoughts and feelings as valid as you might see them, right? And vice versa. You might not hold their thoughts and feelings as valid as they might hold their own. Excuse me. But in the bigger picture of things, whatever it is you're thinking, whatever it is you're feeling and going through, it is valid because you're going through it. You're thinking and feeling and experiencing that. So it has a validity. Okay, it may not be reflective of reality every time or all throughout. Okay, so that is each person's job to sort that out and figure out and sort it out as to what is true, what is reflective of reality, and what isn't, right? And sometimes that's a little harder to do than others. And we all have that challenge in different situations, especially when we're caught up in the heat of an emotionally charged situation. It's hard to really see and be reflective of reality when the emotions are high and when you have an emotional charge to something, right? So, one of the things that I want to touch on is self care. Self care is so important. And for me, one of the things that I've had a problem in the past with is proper self care, proper rest, and taking a break. Taking a break. And for some people, it's hard to do that because they have that Puritan work ethic ingrained into them to just do. And if they're not constantly doing, they go crazy. They feel guilty. They feel worthless. Uh, and it's just a really unhealthy way to go about it because sometimes you do need to slow down in order to speed up, right? Like I'm talking to some of the more experienced, mature people here that have lived several decades on this earth that kind of understand, yeah, I get exactly what you're talking about. Now, I'm not saying that some of the less mature folks who may not have lived that long on this earth can't also understand that. Okay, because a lot of these people out here, in high school and early years of college are running themselves to the ground. You're burning yourself out. You're burning yourself out. And the consequences of that can be devastating, can be debilitating. You can end up debilitating yourself. And so self-care is important. You need to look at your self-care. Even if you think you've got your self-care down pat, I want you to look at it again for you. Because you deserve to have the optimal life experience as much as possible. Now, there's a lot of things you can't control, but there's a lot of things you can control. And your self-care is one of them, right? Excuse me. So, of course, naturally that includes what you put in your mouth, your food intake, right? And look, I'm nobody to really be talking because I give into temptation all the time. It's one of the curses of the blessings is that when you have certain means, you can go out and enjoy steak dinners and lobster and IPAs and all of that, and you really shouldn't, right? So it takes a lot more restraint when you have more means. And that's the thing is that everybody wants more means, right? Everybody wants more money, they want more opportunity, they want more doors open to them in whatever endeavors that they want. But there also comes the other side with that, where you have to practice restraint. You have to manage your energy, your time, and your money differently when you have more of it, because you can end up squandering it and you can end up getting yourself in trouble with it, either health wise or financially, tax wise. A lot of people out here aren't paying their taxes. They're getting their little monies through their little cash apps and PayPals and whatever, GoFundMe's, and they're not worried about the tax man, not one bit. Now, if you only have a couple of dollars coming through, IRS probably won't give you any trouble. They might send you a couple of notices that you need to file, but they know how much you got coming in and it's not much for them to even worry about. But if you have, a few hundred or a couple of $1,000, which some of these people do, and you're not worried about the taxes, and a lot of people think they're smarter than the IRS. And I'm here to tell you, from having volunteered as an IRS tax preparer, and I was just a volunteer. I was not an IRS agent, but just from what I've done, I'm here to tell you, don't do it. Don't play with the IRS. Do not play with the IRS. I'm telling you, you don't want to play with the IRS. If you haven't paid into your taxes for some time, you better go square that away. Go fix it. Go clean it up while you still can. Because once they get on you, it's a wrap. It's a wrap. They'll freeze all your accounts and you won't even be able to hire a lawyer. They will freeze all your stuff. And you will just be sitting there taking whatever butt whooping they're going to give you. I'm here to tell you. But anyway, I'm not here to talk about the IRS. Self-care, getting proper rest, eating healthy stuff as much as possible, and exercise, getting out there, moving your body. The human body is designed to move every day, okay? Not just 20 minutes and then don't move for the rest of the day. Don't do it like that. Find reasons to move all the time to keep the blood circulation going, to keep your cardio going, to keep your brain fresh, your mind. And it also feels good. You have the endorphin rush, and a lot of people that are experiencing depression, that can kind of help, right? And I'm not saying that exercise is a cure for depression. Depression is depression. Everybody's depression is different. And there isn't a one-size-fits-all cure, You can't go around saying, oh, well, you just need to do this and that and that, and that's going to help your depression. It doesn't work like that for most cases, right? But having said that, these things definitely can help, right? They can help you a little bit. Going out into the sun, going out to a park and taking a half hour or 45-minute walk out in nature can be very healing. It can be very therapeutic for someone who's suffering from depression, right? And we all get down, I have depression, and I've had depression to the point where it was such a dark spiral. I couldn't even get up and shower or eat. Literally, I would just stay in my room and lay in the bed all day depressed. And it was like I was frozen, The least little thing of getting up and showering just was such a huge, difficult ordeal for me, And me, I'm a super clean person. Like, I'll shower 3 times a day in the summer. Like this hot summer, like July, August, I'm going to shower in the morning, in the afternoon, midday, and right before bed. I'm super, like, I'm very particular about, the least little smell I smell, And I can't stand when I smell other people that, may need to get that's been slacking a little bit, you know what I mean? And it's a lot of them in the library. So I'm telling you, stanky people love the library. For some reason, there's a lot of stanky. And I'm not talking about homeless people here, okay? Homeless is a different thing. I'm talking about people who do have a home, okay? Who have access to soap and water, but don't use it as much as they should. So when I talk about depression, it can be very debilitating. But, and if you are suffering from depression and anxiety and things like that, self-care is very, very important. And sometimes it's easier said than done, right? In self-care, I include meditation. And also, if you are spiritually inclined, I include grounding, these grounding exercises, or if you're doing prayers, hymns and things like that. If you're not a spiritual person, if you're more atheist or agnostic or whatever, I would include creative visualization, where you're grounding yourself, you're surrounding yourself in healing light, you have a sphere of protection around you, and so forth. So self-care is on the agenda. It's something I encourage. It's something that I basically work with a lot too. And I need a lot of work on that area because I have that, I don't know, I have this craziness in me. Like when I get focused on something, I'm on a mission and, I keep at it over and 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 over relentlessly. Even if it's already done and over, like I've done it, it doesn't need any more work. I'm still, how they say beat a dead horse. I'm that kind of person. Like, I believe in doing things right the first time, but I do tend to go to the extreme. Like, it's not just one or two rounds. It's, round 5,783. You know what I mean? And over the years, I've gotten a little bit better, and I continue to work and improve on that because it's all about 80/20 and being efficient, maximum efficiency, right? Excuse me, maximum efficiency. So I don't want to waste any more time, energy, attention, and resources on a particular project than necessary, right? I've become way more stingy over the years with my energy, with my attention, and with my time. And that is something I want to encourage you to do as well. Become stingy with your attention and your time, energy, and resources. Become stingy in the sense that you want to make sure that you're operating at maximum efficiency. Okay? If a project only requires 8 hours worth of work or time, then don't put 20 or 30 hours into it, right? Give it what it needs and then move on and have that extra, the stuff that you preserve, that extra attention and time for other things, right? Also, I'm the kind of person that likes to prioritize. Is this even worth my time or attention, right? Or do I have to give it the time and attention right now? Can it wait till tomorrow or next week or next month or next year, right? Everything is prioritized in the mind. And that kind of works with I do that with everything now in my life, whether it's dealing with, maybe I'm in traffic, I'm on the freeway here, the I-210, and it's stuck and some idiots in front of me, and, they just cut me off, and now they're, I don't know, you know how drivers are sometimes. Is it worth my energy to get into it with that person? Is it worth my energy to yell and cuss at them back if they're yelling at me? Is it worth me to even pay them any mind? And let me get upset, and then I have this negative charge for the next couple of hours that I now have to carry and deal with in doing whatever it is I'm doing, right? So these are the kind of things I'm talking about, is that you want to preserve and you want to be stingy with your energy and your attention and your time. And, the longer I live on this earth, the more I realize just how important that bit is in life. Preserve your attention, because there are a lot of things, a lot of people, places, and things that are not a priority. If you really look at it and where you're trying to go and what you're doing and who you are, a lot of that stuff can be put to the wayside. And now this is not to say that certain people aren't important, that they don't have their value, their intrinsic value as a human being. But, we all have to deal with conflicts constantly. The minute you get up, there is an inbuilt conflict inside of you and in your life. Okay? I'll give an example. Every day that you get up, you got a conflict of whether to go to work or not, if you're working a job, right? Or if you have to go to the doctor's office, or if you have to go shopping, or maybe you don't have to do anything, but then there's still a conflict. Do you eat breakfast now, or do you take a shower? Which do you do first? Now, these aren't really big conflicts that you waste a lot of time breaking your head over what to do, right? But yet and still, a decision has to be made. One has to be foregone for the sake of the other, right? You can't take a shower and eat breakfast at the same time. I mean, I guess theoretically you could. It might be a wacky situation to be under the shower eating your breakfast. But, you have to make decisions, and that is an inbuilt conflict. Now, some conflicts are a lot more crucial than others, right? If you have a conflict with your spouse or your son or daughter or your neighbor or your boss or your church, fellow church, if you're a church person, or whatever the case is. There's a lot of different situations throughout the day, throughout the week, throughout the month, throughout your life that are just basically boiled down to conflict resolution, right? And one of the things, again, like what I've said just a few minutes ago, is that you have to prioritize what it is you want to put your time and energy into and what can be put by the wayside. Okay. And so that's a lot of things that I've been doing is sorting and leaving, tossing, Uh, one of the attorneys one of the supervising attorneys, I really clicked with her. But one day I was talking to her, and it was almost quitting time. And I said, listen, how do you let go of all this crap when you go home? And she said to me, oh, it's just like files, you just toss them in the corner, toss this. I just see everything as a file, and I just toss it, toss on my way out. And I tried that, and it does work. It does work to just see me toss. Okay. And sometimes I don't toss, it all depends. Sometimes if it's something that does, it is relevant, but it's not a priority right now, then I'll say, okay, well, I can handle this tomorrow, or I can handle this next Monday, or whatever it is, right? But I'm really of the frame of mind now, having reached certain years in my life where I'm ready to let go of a lot of things that are just not going to contribute to who and what I am now, and where I'm going, and what I'm needing now. And that's something you are going to have to do on a regular basis too, if you aren't already doing that. So that's under the umbrella of self-care, exercise, nutrition, meditation, grounding yourself, connecting to your higher self, connecting to whatever spiritual system that you ascribe to, and continuing developing yourself in that. So with that comes the idea of mental health, right? You have a whole health picture: mental, emotional, spiritual, physical, but also mental health, because I did talk about depression. Excuse me. I did talk about depression just a few minutes ago. And so I want to touch and come around to the mental health aspect of that. I'm just going to put it out here. I think the whole world has some mental health issues. I don't think there's one person that has escaped mental health problems. I'm not a mental health expert. I'm just a person. But from my view and my opinion, I don't think any one person has escaped mental health problems. And having said that, mental health and aspiring to improve your mental health, it's a tall order for everyone. Okay? We all are falling short every single day of having good mental health, or having perfect. Is there such thing as perfect? Probably not. But I think we all could improve, right? No matter who you are, we all could improve and get just a little bit better on the existing awesomeness of our current mental health, right? I'm just going to say awesomeness, okay, because, some of us are in certain mental health situations for a reason, okay, for a reason. It's like Viktor Frankl in his book, Man's Search for Meaning. He says something very profound. I mean, he says a lot of things profound in the book, but one of the things that really strike me is when he says it's normal to have an abnormal reaction to an abnormal circumstance. And that's what I want to bring home to you right now about the mental health thing, is that wherever you are, in whatever place you are, I want you to accept that. I don't want you to make excuses for things you've done that may not be good, right? But what I want you to look at is accepting who and what you are right now and understanding that there's a reason for certain things. And if you have depression, if you have mental health issues, bipolar, depression, generalized anxiety, um, is it major depression or do they still call it clinical depression? Or some of the other ones that, schizophrenia, whatever the case is, these things exist and people have these things for very valid reasons. Okay? Specifically for people who have gone through trauma. If you have PTSD, you have anxiety, you have depression, you have bipolar, these are normal reactions to abnormal circumstances, either in the present or in the past or both. Okay? Now, that's not to say it's normal to be depressed. It's not to say it's normal to be bipolar. It's not to say it's normal to have mental illness. This is not what I'm saying. That's not what Viktor Frankl was saying in his book. What he was saying was these things are a reaction to abnormal circumstances. And a normal human being would have these reactions, right? It would be something wrong if you didn't feel sadness and depression over the losses you've had in your life and maybe even the losses you continue to have, right? I mean, there are people like, for example, I'm going to go off of the Jehovah's Witness thing because I do have a base of experience in that, excuse me, but this can be applied to anybody really, right? Jehovah's Witnesses, they do a shunning thing, and I talked about shunning a couple of days ago, and the shunning studies have shown that shunning activates the parts of the brain in the same area that physical pain activates. So shunning causes real pain, not just emotionally, but it can also cause physical pain. You know, the algias and the itis. I'm not a doctor. I'm not saying this causes that, but there are strong interlinked connections with these disease processes. And the pain, the emotional and psychic pain of shunning and other types of abuse. It's really abuse. And the Jehovah's, they do shun. You know, I've been a target of shunning. And you know, I'm an easy target. I'm an easy target for a number of reasons, okay? Number one, I just don't shut my mouth. You know, when things were going on with me as a kid, it was just, my spirit was just like talk, tell. I just knew telling people and not shutting up was going to prevent things from getting worse. It didn't make it go away because none of the adults cared to help me. You know, they were just as useless as they could be. But I truly believe if I had kept silent, it would have been much, much worse. Okay, so I was considered a troublemaker from early on. This is a troublemaker here, you know. And that made me a target. It made me a target in ways that shouldn't have been. And now looking back at that, you know, you have to really lock in on yourself and on your own well-being. And you have to be really careful because you can be in a group where these people are supposed to be your friend. You all are supposed to be working for the same cause on the same sheet of paper. And your own worst enemies can be right there. Not the ones outside that you were demonizing, you know. In the Jehovah's Witness case, it was the worldly people. You know, the worldly people are wicked. And, you know, you can't trust them. They'll do this to you. They'll be liable to do that to you. And they had all these scriptures of unfortunate things that happen to people and, you know, to back up their premises and all of that. But the most dangerous experiences I had was within that group. It wasn't people on the outside. It was the very people in the group, the very people in my home. And this is what you have to remember is it's just like Sun Tzu in The Art of War. You have to be aware of your environment. That's one of the three major keys in war. And again, I'm not talking about warring like with guns and fighting necessarily. Remember I talked about conflict earlier, and conflict includes making the decision between, do I get up and shower or do I get up and eat breakfast? Do I get up and get ready for work or do I call in sick today and give myself a break? Do I, and you fill in the blanks. You know, when you're at the grocery store, do I get sparkling water or do I get orange juice? You know what I mean? You have to make these, there's always a conflict built in. That's what life is. You have to make decisions between this or that. Now, when you're talking about mental health, you know, the conflicts can be much more complex than that, and they can be much more significant. All right. Maybe I'm mentioning something very trivial between making the decision of getting up to eat breakfast or getting up to shower versus dealing with depression and mental health, right? But again, you're talking about conflicts and decision making. And what you want is to make good decisions and have less misery in life, right? That's basically how we're kind of trying to do this, right? So mental health includes boundaries. Setting boundaries. I always talk about boundaries, 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 boundaries. And you can't always change a physical circumstance, but you can always change your mind. You can always work on your own mindset. No one can touch that. No one can make you think or feel what you don't want to think or feel. I learned that very early on in my childhood. I've spoken about it before. I've gone through some really, really severe physical and some of the other not so nice, depraved mess, you know, as a kid by the adults that were supposed to be the very ones to protect me and take care of me. So one of the things that I knew early on, no matter how much of a beating I got, no matter how bad they would have had to kill me, and then they still would not have changed my mind. So that's what I'm hitting home to you. No matter how much life beats you up, because life will kick your butt. Life kicks everyone's ass sooner or later. And it's not just once or twice, you know, it continues to do that as long as you live here and there. There's peaks and valleys all the time, right? So life will give you that. It'll give you a TKO. It'll TKO you to the ground. And you will just be assured that you're never going to be able to get back up again. Okay? And for that moment, it may be true. You're never going to get back up again. For now, right? Tomorrow might be a different story. But today, you're done. It's done. You're toast, right? So setting boundaries with that, setting boundaries between the circumstance and your mind. And that's not always easy. You know what I mean? Life has given me quite a bit. I would say some of the most unfortunate things that I've had to go through and experience. I've come away understanding that at the end of it all, none of these people that wanted to dominate and control me could ever change my mind. And that's the one thing you can hold on to is your mind. Don't hand over your power to other people like that. You know, if somebody says something about you you don't like, don't be too quick to get into it with them. Don't hand over your power like that. If life is giving you a horrible time, you know, you're going to have pain. It's going to be hard. But you still have your integrity. Nothing in this life can take away your integrity. And that was the big message with Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning was that despite all of what he went through in the Nazi concentration camps, they could not take away his integrity. Okay. So, and making meaning of things, make things mean something to you. And you, again, that's all up to you, because we could all be doing the same exact thing, but it all means different things to different people, right? For example, just people going to work. Okay. Yes, it's about paying bills, but it means different things to different people. Some people, it means that they're able to provide for their family. Some people, it means that they're able to pay for their education. Some people, it means they're able to get that car they've always wanted. It all depends on you and how you make meaning of things. One of the things I've made meaning of my life, especially some of the unfortunate things in my life that I've had to live and experience, is that you have to become your own Messiah. Don't look for people that you think should. Leave the shoulds out of it, because nothing is guaranteed. And, you can sit there and wish and hope you had a different situation, but that's not going to help you, right? Wishing and hoping and lamenting. I mean, I'm not saying it's not okay to grieve. Proper grieving has its place. But, the constant complaining and lamenting when now it's time to do something for yourself, right? And that doesn't mean you can't still grieve, because the grieving process, for some of us, is going to be a lifelong process, and I've already, for me personally, some of the losses that I've had to experience early on in my life, I've finally come to a point in my life where I realize, hey, I may not ever get to that point where it's completely like, okay, I'm done with the grief. Let's move on. Okay. So I'm going to stop trying to rush the process. I'm going to just let it have its own time. And if I die before ever coming to fully finishing that grief, then so be it. Right. So be it. And that already changed everything for me, because the minute I stopped trying to rush it and stopped trying to make it end already and let me already finish this already, then I finally had a lot more relief and a lot more healing. There's nothing wrong with being depressed, okay? There's nothing wrong with feeling anxiety and depression and experiencing the PTSD. Nothing wrong with that. It makes for a difficult life sometime, right? But I want you to understand there's nothing wrong with being depressed. And I'm going to say this too. More people than we probably realize are suicidal. More people are suicidal than we realize. And there's various degrees of suicidal ideation, okay? I think a lot more people have the thought, oh, I would like to die, I would rather die, or I wish I could just die, than people may have a whole plan already, right? That's a whole other extreme of suicidal ideation. But I think a large portion of the everyday population has suicidal ideation in the back of their mind. And it makes it hard for people to really talk about it, because everybody's told, oh, if you know someone who's suicidal, call, get a welfare check, call the suicide line, and it's just like people have to stuff it down. They have to shut up about it, because if they talk about it, they're afraid that somebody's going to go and now get, police and welfare check and all of this involved on them, right? So a lot of people have to stuff that down and silently suffer with those suicidal thoughts, okay? Now, here's what I'm going to say about that. If you do have a plan, I do want you to call a suicide hotline. I do want you to get some help. And this is for anybody, okay? Anybody, whether you are on good terms with me or not, I draw the line with personal issues, when it comes to just human safety, right? From human being to human being, I do want you to call and get some help. I don't want you to be alone in that. But now, if you're the kind of person that has that thought here and there when things get too stressed, right? I want you to understand there's nothing wrong with how you're feeling and thinking. Your thoughts and feelings are valid, even though they may not be reflective of the most healthy method or may not even be reflective of reality, right? Like when you're in a depression, your mind starts to have these distortions and you filter out a lot of positive things because you have these black shades on, so to speak. And it's hard to come out of that, right? And you have these common cognitive distortions. Excuse me. So setting boundaries with that is crucial. Also, emotional self-regulation. Emotional self-regulation, being able to deal with your emotions. And a lot of us, again, this is a tall order, because some of our emotions are very overwhelming, especially if we've suppressed them. We've had to put them away because of how we were raised or what we've gone through. Maybe it's not safe to even express those emotions, even in your current life. So it's hard to regulate them if you haven't been able to really sit with these emotions. And this is where I would encourage you in a safe and a careful way to explore sitting with those uncomfortable emotions a little bit at a time and developing your pain tolerance, your discomfort tolerance for certain emotions. Excuse me. We have a whole gambit of emotions. We have everything from happy and sad to depressed and despair. And of course, it's easier to be happy and laughing and joyful than it is to have depression or despair. But this is part of the spectrum of emotions, and you need to be balanced. You need to give those emotions of frustration, of anger, of sadness, you need to sit with them enough so that you can process these emotions, because these are signals from your mind and your psyche that there's something off balance. There's something you need to process and deal with. And this is where mental health counselors and facilitators come in, and you doing the work, self-awareness and all of that. But all of that is a lot easier said than done, right? It's a work in progress, a lifetime work in progress. I believe that. I believe for most people, you're not ever going to get it all done. You're not ever going to finish or get over something. That's not the point. That's not the point. The point is to have an ongoing, healthy way to process these things, these difficulties, these struggles, the pain, the losses, the grief, right? And a lot of these people that I've roasted in the past, they've had as much pain as I have. They've got as much grief as I have. We all have grief. It might be, the details might be different, but I don't discount anybody's grief, because they may not have had the same exact experience as me. Everyone's process is valid. And so this is what I want you to understand about your own, is don't discount your process or your losses or your grief because someone else may have had something that you might consider a harder life or a much more traumatizing experience. Okay, because we all process in our own way. It's all subjective in how we see things and deal with things and feel about things, right? So don't discount yours, don't discount other people, right? And at the core of everything, I look at that and I say, emotional self-regulation is not a very easy thing to do all the time, especially in an emotionally charged situation, right? So give yourself room to fall short. Give yourself room to fail. Give yourself room to fall off the wagon. Don't excuse it. Don't enable it for yourself, but at the same time be balanced and don't put that Puritan mindset behind it. You know what I mean? Okay, so mental health, we also have, uh, let's see, what did I have on here? Compassion and love for self and others. Compassion, humility, love, self for others, those are some very, very tall orders. Okay, those are some very tall orders, especially when you're dealing with people that are highly stressed, that are emotionally injured, that have had trauma, that have gone through terrible things. You're probably not going to get a lot of compassion, a lot of love, and kindness in dealing with these types of people. And if you're going through those things, it's very, very hard because the amygdala or the reptilian brain is the main one that's constantly charged, right? It's about survival. That's the part of your brain that's on survival mode. So if somebody's constantly on survival mode, they don't have as much access to the prefrontal cortex, which now is the part of the brain where you have compassion, humility, and love. But even with that, you have to be careful. You have to temper it and balance it with boundaries, right? If you're too compassionate, if you're too kind, you know, people are going to step on you. They're going to take advantage of you. So you have to have a boundary there. You have to have, in the Kabbalistic system, you have Gibura, which is severity, and then you have Chesed, which is mercy on the other end, on the other spectrum. And in the middle, you have Tiparet, which is beauty. And there is a beauty when you see a balance between compassion, kindness, and love versus boundaries and detachment, right? And again, that's for each of us to work out and, you know, be ready to fall short. Be ready to fall short probably more often than you would like to admit to yourself. You know who's going to point that out to you? It's going to be other people that will point that out to you. Now, again, they might be biased one way or another, right? It's not always easy to see it clearly, but there's that. That's an ongoing work that we all have to do too, right? And some of us do better at it than others, I guess, you know, in some instances. I mean, listen, there are people that have seen a side of me that basically they would just call me a saint. And I always let people know, I'll say, listen, you just see this side of me. I do have another side of me. You know, nobody's a saint here. I don't want you to look at me. Don't get the wrong idea here, okay? And then there's people that's seen a side of me that's been very, very relentless and probably not the nicest, okay? And I would say to those people too, you've just seen that side of me, okay, because of the circumstance. But, you know, nobody's a saint, nobody's all evil. We all have varying degrees of it. So there's that. Okay, let's say. I'm right at an hour here. I have a couple more things here on my paper. As far as education, mental health, self-care, it ties into educating yourself, knowing what's going on, having a name for it, right? The minute I had names for things, made things easier. Being able to put it in a category. And sometimes you don't want to do that, like with art, when you're doing realistic portrait drawing, you don't want to categorize what it is you're drawing at the beginning because you just want to be able to put down what you see. But if you categorize it as a nose, as an ear, then you're not, it's hard because now you've got a symbol system, you see, and that's why a lot of people can't draw realistically is because They're categorizing it, and they're actually drawing the symbol in their mind and not what it is they actually see, even though they think they're drawing what they see. You see? So sometimes you don't want to categorize, but sometimes you do. When it is a problem, when there's an issue in your life, the problem solving step first is to identify the problem. You have to have a name for it, okay? And sometimes there aren't names for things, right? Sometimes even the language of English or whatever language you speak, it's limited. There's a lot of things that exist that we just don't have any human language terms for it, period, in any language. So sometimes you have to just give it a temporary name or a made up name so that you can now deal with it and define it and go on to solve the problem as best as you can, right? To find a solution for it, or at least something where you can manage it, right? So education, learning, knowledge, skill building, and even some wisdom, okay? These are the things that now play into the self-care, the mental health, because understanding psychology, any kind of work you do in learning, teaching yourself about psychology, whether you watch YouTube videos on psychology or certain kind of mental health things, or read a book, whatever it is, it's going to give you that much more empowerment. Because now you have something to work with along those lines, and you've taken some steps to continue to educate yourself in that. And I'm a big proponent of education. I'm a big proponent. I think everyone should go to school and get an education, get a proper education. I'm not talking about these little, BS life coach, male diploma mills. Excuse me. I'm talking about where there's a real professor giving you real assignments, you're writing dissertations, essays, all of that. Push yourself beyond your intellectual limits. Because if you don't, you're going to get stuck, stagnant, and putrefied and old. Okay? So push yourself beyond your academic limits. And I always look at people with a special sense of pride for them that are doing that, especially if they're older. I've known people throughout my life that have gone back to school in their 50s and 60s, and it is just really a great thing. I have to respect that. You got to respect it because it's not easy at any age. But the more you do a certain life, the longer you stay out of school, sometimes it's hard to go back, right? Unless you're constantly keeping yourself sharp. And that's what I'm talking about. Keep yourself sharp and continue to educate yourself and get that proper education. If you haven't already, get it. It is so worth it. Now, having said that, I am going to say this here. Any of the high-paying professions, the ones that give you a comfortable life, and I'm not saying you're going to be rich necessarily, you're just not going to be broke on the street. You're going to have enough food, you're going to have a nice place to live, you're going to have a car, clothes, and you're going to have a little extra that you can give to other people or give to charity or help some stray cats. You know what I mean? That kind of income, guess what? If you haven't already gotten the education, you're going to need to get that education. And one of the gateway to those higher paying professions is math. Yes. A lot of people don't want to hear about math. Oh, nope. I'm not a math person. See you later, Gator. Oh, really? You do math every day. When you go grocery shopping, guess what? That's math. You look at the prices, that's math. When you put gas in your car and you look at how much gas and how much that is going to cost, that's math. You buy a pack of cigarettes, that's math. Math, you do math all the time, all day, every day. So you can't say you're not a math person. It's like people that say, oh, I'm not a reader person. I have trouble reading, so I guess I'm not a reader. I guess I just won't read anything. Oh, really? And this is the same thing. Math is a language, and it is a gateway to more power, to more money, and more opportunities. You're gonna have to get those math. You got to get over your math handicap. And I want to talk to the women especially. I know that there's this stigma in society that girls and women, they're not really encouraged to be good at math, and people have this thing, well, guys or men or boys are better at math, or it's easier for them. All that's BS. It's all BS. It's all BS. If you put the time into properly learning math and having a proper attitude about it too, you're going to be just as good as anybody else. And math, I'm going to tell you something, math is hard for everybody. Don't let this stigma or this stereotype or this myth of, oh, some people are just good at math naturally. That's bull. That's bull. We all are inclined for math. We all are inclined for math. Little babies, they already know the difference between one or the other. That's all math. That's counting, right? But the thing is, as we get older, society has us brainwashed into believing things about ourselves and about other people that is bull. It's not true. But we play into this because we think that it is true. And so we play out these roles and we play out these stereotypes. But math is a gateway. Those higher level, whether you try to get something in the medical industry, in the tech industry, in the science industry, engineering, even in the financial or even in the legal industry, it is all math. You have to take those higher level math courses to get those certificates and those degrees. So brush up on your math, work on math problems. If that's what you're looking to do and you've got a handicap and you're not that good with math, go get yourself a solutions workbook off of Amazon or from the library, okay? And there's a lot of books out there from, basic addition, subtraction, all the way to multivariable calculus that have not only the right answers, but have the whole solution worked out for you. Excuse me. There are problem solvers that have every type of calculus problem that you'll come across in college and or high school worked out. It has all the solutions worked out. And go over those problems over and over again. Go over the solutions over and over again. Multiple layers of review. Those people that seem to just have a knack for it, you know what those people have done that you may not have done? Is they've gone and practiced those problems over and over and over. And I know a couple of people like that. They do math problems just for fun. They just like solving problems. And, they'll do math problems here and there as their day goes by without necessarily having classwork to do it. So that's what I'm trying to get you to understand is use the math as your gateway. Even if you don't plan on going back to school, the fact that you're able to think abstractly and solve problems, not only does it give you a dopamine rush, which again can play into your mental health because it gives you a little bit more confidence each time, right? And if this has been an issue for you, it feels so good to have those small wins, right? Go back to remedial math. If you're having problems with fractions, and a large portion of Americans in this country don't really know how to do math past addition and subtraction. When it comes to decimals and fractions, a lot of them. Matter of fact, elementary school teachers, the math portion of their exam, their licensing exam, they only have to get half of the math answers right. In fact, no, actually, most of them only get half of the math portion right. But even if you miss every single math question, granted you pass the other ones, you still will get your license. You can still enter as a elementary school teacher. And that, what? What in the world? What in the world? So this math handicap is a huge deal in this country, in the United States. And I venture to say in some other Western countries too. Okay? So, hey, I know this is geeky. I know this might be like, oh, what is he on? Oh, he's definitely crazy. Now, we knew he was crazy before, but he's definitely wacko here. Who's going to do math problems for fun? Well, I do math problems for fun. Matter of fact, I did 4 calculus problems earlier this morning. Look, I'm trying to work over a math handicap, and I think I'm doing all right for now, right? Because I never thought I'd get to this level. Okay? But what I did was I went back to remedial math. I went back to the very beginning, 1 plus 1. And I did just what I told you. I got some solution workbooks. And listen, many times I got stuck and I didn't understand it. And I got that frustration and it was hard. And I took a day away and I came back and I still didn't understand it. I literally just hand copied the solution over and over and over until it was burned into my brains. Until I could close my eyes and see that solution. Okay? And then I went to the next one. And then the next one. And then I went back to that one. And did a review again. And then I tried to work it without looking at the solution again and understand why is that answer that way. Right? So that's an empowering thing for me. And you can build those little wins up every day. Because once you can get over that math handicap, now you have a lot of doors open to you. Number one, you're not going to be stressed and traumatized when you do take the math classes that you need to get where you need to go, right? And number two, now you can actually enjoy it and see the beauty of it. And that's the problem a lot of us have had in the past, whether it was elementary school, high school, or college, was that we were never really told, how is this useful? How am I going to apply this in my everyday life? So, you got to have meaning and context. Again, Viktor Frankl's principle of making meaning, it translates into the small things and the big things in life. So you have to understand, how is this calculus class going to make, how is this going to be a practical thing? How can you take what you're learning here into your everyday practical life, right? So one of the ways that I'm going to let you know is your skills in calculus, you can take that bad boy to the bank. You can literally take it to the bank because calculus, it boils down to measuring the rate of change, okay? And when you're talking about change, where is there not any change? Everywhere, right? So in the financial world, again, I told you can take this to the bank. In the financial world, your skills in calculus can literally make or break investment portfolios, real estate transactions, okay? Career, paychecks, promotions, bonuses. You can use that to make mathematical predictions based on the past and the present of certain rates of change within a financial pocket, okay? So translating that to real life terms or outside of the classroom, how do you know you're working for a company that may or may not be able to afford to give you a promotion? Or how do you know you want to keep staying at that company? Maybe the company's having financial problems. You would not be able to really understand the bigger picture of your company's financial without the calculus skills, where you can calculate things. Okay? You can look at your company's annual reports. You can look at some of these other financial statements and do some calculations and see a much clearer, deeper picture, much deeper picture of the financial state of the company you're working for example, right? So Some people that might decide, hey, this company's pretty stable. I've done some equations here. I've done some homework. I think I'll stay another 10, 15 years and invest my services in this company. Or you might see some things and say, you know what, I think this company's got some real problems here, and it might be even a sinking ship and nobody knows. There's certain ways companies hide these things where you're not going to get it from the annual report. You can't just read the annual report and say, oh, okay, well, they're doing great, cool. And then 5 years from now, you're getting laid off or the thing is shut down, right? Or it's sold out to another company who now is demoting you, or to a whole other position, and you're like, what in the world? I never saw this coming. Okay, and sometimes you can't see things like that coming, but calculus is one of those powers, those mathematical skills that can save you a lot of heartache. It can bring you a lot of profits, especially if you're investing. It's a wonderful skill. It's a wonderful skill, and that's one of the reasons why you should learn calculus, even if you're not trying to go back to school, even if you're not working for a company. There's so many applications to calculus. I mean, I could sit here all day and give you a rundown of how you could use calculus outside of the textbook or outside of the classroom or outside of the equations. So, excuse me. But that's for you to look up some things on the beauty of calculus, the beauty of math. Why bother learning calculus? There's a zillion YouTube videos out there that you can start with and get into it. Get into it. Calculus and math, really math in general. And like I said, if you have problems with the basic fractions and decimals, don't be ashamed. You're not the only one. Heck, I had it too. And it's just a matter of working it out. Just keep working the problems. If you want, I'll give you a good book recommendation if you're so inclined to get started. It's called All the Math You Ever Need to Know. It's by Wiley, Self-Teaching Guide. Excellent book. It has, the way they have it set up, you have a couple of pages where you're reading how to do a particular type of problem, and then you have 5 to 8 problems that you can already work out, and you have the answers and the solutions worked out step by step. And these types of problems involve mortgage rates. Okay, if you're a homeowner and you're looking at different mortgage rates, how do you calculate that? It helps you with even your purchases. Sometimes, merchants have different kinds of offers, and some of those offers on the surface look like a deal until you break it down and you realize, wait a minute, that's not even a deal. That's not what I thought it was, right? And sometimes merchants even gyp themselves, because they didn't really know how to do the math. So again, you can take that to the bank. Any kind of math sharpening you do on yourself is going to, in the least case, help you save money, avoid losing money unnecessarily, and may even make you some money if you use it to certain ways. Like, for example, we talked about investing, right? And when I talk about investing, I'm not just talking about blue chip stock, definitely not talking about crypto, okay? Because investment to me, it's a whole lifestyle and a mindset. It's not just money, but it's also time. Again, this is what I started off in the beginning. You need to be stingy with your time, attention, and energy and resources, right? You need to be stingy in the sense that you got to focus on what your priorities are. And you can't let life or other people come along and pull at your resources unnecessarily. You got to set those boundaries. You got to let things be by the wayside that's not in line with your priorities. So Math is definitely the key to any kind of leveling up you want to do. All right. I also recommend, no matter who you are, what your age is to go ahead and learn some coding and programming. Don't get left behind by this technology. I'm here to tell you. And don't fall into that trap. Oh, I'm 60 years old. I'm too old. Or, oh, I'm too young. Or I'm too this. Or I'm too that. Don't fall into that trap. Don't let your monkey mind chip you out of opportunities for a much better, much more exciting life. Okay? And programming and coding, it doesn't have to be hard. Even if it's Greek to you now and you don't understand anything, hey, that's fine. I mean, that's a lot of, again, coding isn't easy for anyone, right? Even if it's easy for those people, they've worked at it for a long, long time. That's why it's easier, but they're going to always come across problems that will stump them for some time. And that's okay. You got to be okay with not knowing right away, with being confused right away, right? With working through that. You got to be okay with that, because that's the process of illumination. The first step of illumination is being confused. You're being hit with totally foreign new information that you have no reference to. Now is your work to connect what's in front of you with things that you already know. And sometimes it's not that easy to build that bridge. So you kind of have to work at it, and it takes time. It takes time. That's what you have to remember too. Maybe you're rushing it. Maybe you're expecting too much too soon of yourself. And that's why you've played and bought into this idea that you're not good at math, you're not good at tech, you're not good at coding, you'll never learn it. It's all so foreign to you. Maybe because you have unrealistic expectations of yourself and you don't understand that it's hard for everyone. And it just takes time, repeated layers of review and working at it, and then getting away from it for a little while, sleeping on it, coming back to it again and again and again. It's just like anything else in life, right? So get into the coding. I advise everyone learn the very basics. And there's so many sites out there that give free coding training and classes. You don't have to have money to go to school right away. You can do it online. You can do it at your own pace. But I would advise you to do it every day, at least 20, 30 minutes minimum. All right. Let's see. I think I've covered everything. I think I have. Yeah. Yeah. Back to the roasts. I'm going to I have a channel where I put roasts for a more exclusive audience, because I think they do have their place, but I really, really enjoy talking about things that probably a lot of people might not. At least the audience I've had on this channel, I think the audience on this channel really does enjoy the goofy stuff and the crazy stuff. But I think a lot of the things I've talked about in the past, like the Kabbalistic tree of life and the Kabbalah and things like that, has been over a lot of people's heads. And, if I'm going to go out here and talk about AI, artificial intelligence, quantum computers, programming, and various types of math like multivariable calculus and things like that. Again, I'll probably be speaking over a lot of people's heads, and it will just seem like it's, a little bit too much of an intimidating topic. And I really feel sad about that. I really, really do, because it doesn't have to be that way. It is the way that we've been taught, the way that we've been brainwashed to think about these topics, and it really handicaps a lot of people in their life. It has handicapped me for many years, and years ago I decided to get over that math handicap, and I started with one of the most repelling topics I could. I mean, literally, it was taxes. Ow! I gagged at just the thought of anything taxes. Like, I don't, no. But one day, one of my attorney friends said to me, "You know, that's tax law, right? That's still law." And I said, "Oh yeah." The reason she was saying that to me is because I had a litigant I was helping. I'm not an attorney, by the way. Okay, just so you know, I'm not an attorney. I'm still thinking about learning about law. So anyway, I was helping one of the litigants. She had a divorce that she was filing, and she also wanted child custody. So in those papers, at least here in California, you have to also do financial declaration, and you also have to bring in your tax papers, right? And so I was talking about when I was bringing the papers to the back for the supervising attorney to look over and stamp her signature on and all that. I was saying, taxes. I just don't like to. I hate taxes. I don't like dealing with it. I don't like, I really didn't enjoy having to do the paperwork or whatever. And she says to me, "Well, that's still law, tax law." And I said, "Oh yeah." And so I walked away that day with a different mindset towards it, even though it was still implicitly repellent to me. It's like, oh, taxes, oh my God, And the IRS isn't the most clear cut when it writes its tax code, law code. I mean, some of that stuff is just like, what in the hell? Okay. Especially when you're dealing with cryptocurrency. The cryptocurrency law, if you're a crypto millionaire and you're not paying you better have a good tax attorney that specializes in crypto, because if you screw up on those convoluted tax codes, law codes, IRS is not going to care that you didn't understand it or that it was convoluted in the beginning, in the first place. It's just going to say you didn't pay what we say you owe, so now we're going to penalize you. And the thing about the IRS, it really is kind of punitive on the crypto folks. I don't know if you've heard about the crypto shenanigans, but a majority of the people that have invested in crypto they're basically nothing. I mean, they might have the numbers on the screen that says you got 1,000,000 Bitcoins, but you can't cash that out. You won't ever be able to cash it out because there's no money there, because the companies that you've put your money to, they have basically been busted now, and they're completely bankrupt, and they're getting sued. So, if your money was still in their pockets, it's being used to pay some lawyers out there somewhere to help defend their butts. Okay. You will not be getting any of those millions. So, but the IRS will charge you taxes because you still have the numbers in Bitcoin. See, that's how the IRS works. It says, well, your Bitcoin says you have $1 million, so we're going to tax you 35% of those $1 million Bitcoins, even though you can't cash them out ever. So, either you go ahead and sell them, which again, you're going to pay a percentage of taxes on the sales, or you keep them and you keep paying taxes every year. It's a pretty dismal state to be, I tell you. I know crypto has been pumped up all over the media, and it's pumped up to be the next best thing, the next best get rich quick money, easy money type of scheme. But I'm here to tell you, I wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole. I don't care if you gave me some Bitcoin, I wouldn't take it. Nope. Give me the real money or just forget it altogether, because I'm not letting the IRS tax me on any Bitcoins, any kind of crypto coins, period, be it Bitcoin or whatever coin. But anyway, back to that. That's when I was changed after that attorney said that to me, because then it was just, oh yeah, this is a type of law. It's tax law. So once I had a different mindset about it, yes, I still had the math handicap. Yes, I was still phobic of math, but I went on to go ahead and overcome that as well. To overcome it to the point where I practiced it. And voila, it really feels good to overcome a certain kind of fear, a certain kind of handicap in your life. And we all have various handicaps, right? Handicap doesn't mean necessarily you're in a wheelchair. Handicap could be a math handicap, which is a real problem because you might be losing money and not even know it. You might be missing out on money and not even know it. You might be leaving money behind on the table. Not just money, but careers. There's certain careers that, like I said, if you don't go through that gateway of calculus, you're not going to get past that. You've got to go through that gateway. And why should you not have those opportunities like other people have, right? So that's what I want to lay in front of you, is that just because all your life you may have had this particular situation doesn't mean you have to continue on. And hell, you could be 90 years old and still get started now. It's never too late, okay? And you could be 3 years old. If you have a 3-year-old, start teaching that 3-year-old some math, okay? I'm here to tell you, teach that kid math, especially if it's a girl. Teach that kid to do math problems as early as possible. And little babies, they know how to do math. You just start making them count. 1, 2, 3. 1 plus 1 is 2. ABC. Let them do the ABCs and the 1, 2, 3s, right? So yeah, I'm excited. I get excited talking about math. I know that's very geeky for some people. They're like, oh, what a nerd. What a geek. But that's kind of what I've been preoccupied with. I know I've had a couple of people ask me to do some roasts, but I think I'll do those roasts on an exclusive basis. Maybe do an unlisted one or something like that, just for 1 or 2 people for them. And then stay doing some of the more crucial stuff, some of the stuff that I'm more preoccupied with, and share some of that if time permits. I do have, constraints on my time, but I do want to take more time out to put some more content on this channel and, talk about some of the things that I've been preoccupied with. So, yeah. But I appreciate you tuning in. I appreciate it. Thanks for tuning in. Let's get a good start on this holiday season. I hope you're going to have a good holiday season. And, if you don't have family, you're being shunned, it's okay to be alone. It's okay. There's nothing wrong with being alone. I'm one of these people that really value my alone time just as much as I value my people time. I love people. I love being around people. I love servicing people. Excuse me. I love watching people. Like yesterday I was at the beach, at Venice Beach, and I was just chilling in the sand, watching people pass by, and it was just really cool just watching different kinds of people and meeting new people. It's always good to meet new people and hear different people's life stories. And people are quirky, they're amazing, they're crazy, they're fascinating, they're weird. I mean, you have all kinds of flavors of people. And but at the same time, I also value my alone time, where I have my days where I don't want to be around anyone. I need my own space, and I prefer to be alone, okay? And there's nothing wrong with that. So if you are going to be celebrating the holidays alone, there is an advantage to that too, because you have your own peace, you have your own space. You don't have to sit with people and pretend to like them when you can't stand to be around each other, like a lot of people do with their families. You couldn't pay me to have that anymore. Oh no, I'm not going to sit with anybody. I'm not going to fool with anybody. I don't want to. on my holidays. No, sir. No, ma'am. But a lot of people have to because for the sake of family. Okay? And sometimes they have to be around people that are not even safe, that are abusive to them, that don't mean them well. You know what I mean? I had somebody tell me, you got to always make sure the person that you're hanging out with means you well. And they let me know about folks that was supposed to be family, right? They let me know a few things. And, I always remember that. I always remember that. And sometimes the messenger themselves, they can tell you a few things. But, this holiday season, do some self-care, work on your education, work on your betterment, and just understand when people see you do better, automatically there's going to be people that will be very uncomfortable with that because it's going to remind them that they need to be doing better. So in their mind, you're taking something away from them. You're making them uncomfortable. And they might strike out at you. They might give you some shade. They might start hating on you. Excuse me. They might even do things to distract you or sabotage you. All depends. And you might have to act accordingly. You might have to let some of those folks go, and some of them might be people that are supposed to be supporting you, or that might supposed to be your friend or your family or whoever, right? But just realize they're human beings, and beyond just, maybe them not being the safest to be around, it's not for you to try and figure out why they're that way or to place a judgment on them. You just have to make sure to place that boundary so you can stay focused on you and where you're going, okay? Because nobody's going to do it for you. Nobody's going to be your Messiah or your Savior but you. You have to be your own Savior. And that is one of the hard lessons I've had to learn throughout the years. I learned it early on before I even knew how to really speak, that I am on my own. I have to be my own dad. I have to be my own mother. I have to be my own personal Messiah. You have to be your own Savior. And I learned that early on in my life. Early on. Before I was ever an adult. That was a hard lesson. And, over the years, in my young years, I would forget that, or at least think, well, maybe it's not like that. And I would look for a certain person or a certain group of people, to now be a substitute for something else. But in the end, it was all banking on things that fell through because no one else is going to take care of you the way you need to take care of you. No one else, and no one's place. No one should be burdened with being your therapist or your parent or, finish raising you. Like, you got to clean your own thing up. And I'm not saying don't share your life with people that you love and that are safe, right? But you got to ultimately do your own work. We all have to do our own work. We can support each other, but you got to do your own work. And so that's why I mentioned the math thing, because I know a lot of people, they're not math people, quote unquote, right? You are a math person because math is a language. If you know English, then you can learn math. You do math all the time anyway, So it's not like you're not ever doing math. You're doing math all day long. If you really think about it, all day long you're doing math. All day long. So, I encourage people to learn coding and programming. Learn coding and programming. Don't get left behind. Because at some point in the very near future, everyone's going to be coding and programming. Okay? Everyone's going to be coding and programming. There's going to be little 5-year-old kids as well as 80-year-old grandmas. So, get in on it as early as now, because you don't want the future to catch up on you and you're left behind, and now you've got the handicap has gotten even bigger, right? And again, the more you're able to think abstractly, by doing more math, the easier the programming will get. Okay. And then I would say start learning a foreign language. If you're not like me, who's a polyglot, um, learn a second language. It's okay. You don't have to be a master at it, but learn some basic things where you could converse with somebody of that culture. Hi, how are you doing? Thank you, please. Those types of phrases. So keep yourself sharp intellectually, keep yourself sharp emotionally, keep yourself sharp spiritually if you're so inclined. Um, Keep yourself sharp physically. And that's easier said than done. Like I said, give yourself room to fail. Give yourself room to fall short. And look at it as a work in progress over long term. This isn't just a few weeks here and there. Come back to something. There are things that I started and came back to a year later, and then I put down again. I came back 2 years later, and I came back and put it down, came back and put it down. And after 10 or 12 years, boom, there's a result. There's an outcome. Okay? So, anyway, I appreciate you listening to me. I appreciate you tuning in. I appreciate all of the engagement and tension and the feedbacks. Sometimes the feedback isn't really anything, that has anything to do with the topic. I'd get like sometimes I don't know if they're spammers. They're out here trying to advertise their channel or whatever that is. There was like somebody posted an OnlyFans link or some weird thing like that. I'm like, okay, you're definitely in the wrong neck of the woods. You need to go on to the other side somewhere where there's business for you. Maybe hit up a few churches, because I heard those preachers are hard up. No pun intended. But anyway, I'm going to get out of here. Thanks for tuning in now and into the future, and I'll see you when I'll see ya.